I've always wanted to walk up to the podium and be introduced at 11:58 and then 11:59, so that right at noon, I'd have this quandrum, which is, would I say good noon? Think about it, okay? And explain this to me. Why is it that midnight is 12 a.m. and noon is 12 p.m.? Now, if some of you have never thought that, it may be a very long 20 minutes or so, okay? If you have thought it, then you and I are kindred spirits, okay? Because I kind of look at the world a little bit differently. On your table, you have a couple copies of my books. They are available for sale, and I hate that part of it, but you know, that's what you do. Looking is a book that if you take a kind of a look through it, you're going to shake your head a little bit at me. You're going to smile a little bit. I took all the pictures. I wrote all the things that are in it. I used to run a large thoroughbred farm. I broke and trained horses for about 25 years. I barrel raced all over the state, and we have thoroughbreds, or had thoroughbreds at the Indiana tracks. So this one will a little bit of different emotions. The second book, I Don't Have Crooked Legs, is a kid's story. We had a horse born with crooked legs. She was called Windswept. And the first time I saw her walk across the arena, I started crying. And I wrote the book in 4 days. It just came to me. It's about bullying. It's about self-image. But it's all told by animals. All of them I owned. And the unique part of it is all of them are, in fact, although they don't talk, my dogs do talk to me, but they are, in fact, real. Her mother really is blind in one eye. I do have a three-legged dog. So all those things are part of it. So this one will kind of make you like me a little bit, because it's, and if you're a mother with a daughter, it's a daughter-mother kind of relationship. Mothers like it probably more than the kids do. So, you know, take a look at that. I wrote a third book called Brothers Still Death. It's only available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. You will shake your head really hard at me and probably not like me a whole lot, but it's about my relationship with God and my family and just life in general. So if you like to read, I love the book. Of course, I wrote it, so I better love it. But you know, take a look at it, and I'd love to hear from you. I do have a website called liveexceptionally.com, and I usually write on there every day. I've been kind of taking a little bit of a break, but you can take a look at there. So the books are, the Looking book is $25. I Don't Have Crooked Legs is $12. If you buy both of them today, it's $30 for the two of them. So. Now, I want to tell you how I got here, because it's kind of a unique story. I was born in Kokomo at a very young age. Wait. I gotta go a little faster than that. I went to Taylor High School, Cedarville College, and the University of San Diego Law School. I have a degree in business administration, theology before I practiced law. I better speed up even a little faster than that. I practiced law for a while in Kokomo, about 11 years. I was a college professor, a high school teacher, and 2 years ago I decided, somebody said, you need to write a book. So I wrote Looking. And then somebody said, you need to write another book. So I wrote another book. And I had been working on Brothers Still Death all my life as far as the events. It's actually my story and the story of my brother. So it's a unique kind of view of things. And so I've been doing that. I've been traveling and speaking, but I also do, I deliver feed to horses, horse farms. I cut rope in a factory over in Rossville. I cleaned stalls this morning. I rode my motorcycle there. Sheila and I were talking about motorcycles. So I do kind of what I need to do what I love to do. And that's kind of what I'm here to talk about. But that's kind of not really how I got here. How I really got here today was I got a text message from somebody I did not know, Sheila. It said, how would you like to speak? It was from a recommendation from somebody I hardly knew, and said, would you like to come to speak? And I said, sure, I love to speak. What do I speak about? Anything you want. Okay, that's like giving me dynamite, okay? Because you never know what's going to come out of it. And I said, how long? 15, 20 minutes. And I usually show my pictures. As I said, I took the pictures in the book. But that didn't work out, and that's a good thing, because it's making me stretch, because my pictures are kind of a crutch. I could talk about my pictures and the process of taking them kind of all day. So I'm here without pictures, which is the very first time I've ever spoke without my pictures. So just bear with me just a little bit. And I don't mean to offend anyone. That's not me. But if you got to know me, I pretty much say what's on my mind. I have a feeling that most of you do the same thing, except for you may or may not say it in public. That's kind of the difference. So I then said to Sheila, well, you know, who else speaks? Well, Ruth Riley's going to speak, I thought before. Okay, so now I got something really hard to follow up. Okay, Ruth Riley, she's a former professional basketball player. She's taller than I am. She's a whole lot prettier than I am. She could school me on the basketball court. And she works with children. And I thought, what am I going to talk about? I don't do projects. And I looked on the website and I started to panic because it talks about, and Sheila gave me a really good compliment, the fact that I remember part of this, but I believe part of the purpose of Kiwanis is changing the world, let's see, by serving one child in one community at a time. Okay? So I thought, now I'm even more panicked because I don't do that either. What am I going to talk about? So I've rewritten this about 5 times. The first time, or the last time, came between 8:30 and 9:30 on my motorcycle. I was flying down and I go, okay, that's what I mean. So I went home and kind of rewrote it and said, what am I going to talk about? Well, here's what I'm going to talk about. We are all a community project. Not this organization, but each of you are a community project. My community project is me, because I come into contact with people all the time. All of you come into contact with people all your time. I've never met Mr. Anderson before, but I know his name now. I can say, and I believe you, I'm going to go home and say, I met. It's Mike Anderson, right? Mm-hmm. And I go, I met him. The guy who has those signs up on the car dealerships. It doesn't matter if anybody else knows. I now know. And by the way, my fiance just bought a car from the dealership last week. So.
I got another happy dollar.
There we go. So I went, and now I got to go tell her I met him. I really did. So I don't know exactly how to work on community projects, but I do know how to work on me. And that's kind of the whole point of what we're doing. All of you care about what you're doing. All of you care about your job because it provides an income. That helps provide for your family. But you would not be a part of this organization if you didn't truly care about people. That's the whole point. Now, I know there's some benefit. When I was a lawyer, people said, you got to join this organization, you got to join this organization. Find a church without a lawyer. That's the one to join. I actually got that advice from another lawyer. Okay, so that tells you something about that. But, so I understand part of that. But I want to tell you a little story. I'm engaged, and I don't have any grandchildren, but my fiance does. And they're kind of like my grandchildren. We have a 5-year-old named Marley. Now, Marley was named, her name is Marley Magnolia. Okay, so Bob Marley, it was all part, you know, there's kind of this thing. And Marley's a very unique person. So Marley went to school last Wednesday at kindergarten for the very first time, all day. And she did great. Wednesday night, Marley decided, I'm not going back to school anymore. It's too much pressure, Mom. I just can't do it. Now, the deal was you could walk your kid into school on Wednesday mornings, but Thursday mornings you were supposed to drop them off and let them walk in by themselves. They got to teach them some independence. Don't want all the moms crying in the school, letting go of their kids. And so Marley decided at church, I can't go. So the big all-night conversation, all-morning conversation, you're going to go. So Brianna decides that she has to walk her into the school, and they're holding hands. And up walks this little girl, and she says, hi, this is my second day of kindergarten. And she looks like it's her second day of kindergarten too. It looks like she's nervous. Would you like to go with me? And she said, sure, we'd like to go with you. She goes, all we have to do is find a red square. Okay? The red square was in what they call the fishbowl. Now the fishbowl is nothing more than the kind of the lobby of the building where all the kids wait for the bell and then they all go, you know, but remember, they're 5. She said, all we got to do is find a red square. We'll stand on the red square. If we have any questions, they're going to come and find us. Everything will be great. Walk in. No red squares. Now the little girl who was full of confidence is going, where are the red squares? Where are the red squares? Looking at Brent, where are the red squares? I don't know what to do. And they were panicked because they didn't look as red square. Here's what I think we all need to be, red squares. Red squares are what adults are supposed to be for kids. Because the reality, these two gentlemen are the kind of people that we want to see coming up into the future. But guess what? There's a homeless kids shelter opening up in Kokomo. Homeless kids shelter. That means that the kids that we see sitting at these tables, sorry, you're kids, because you really are. You could almost be my grandkids. So the reality of it is that there are kids that don't have those kinds of opportunities. They don't sit here in bow ties and speak very eloquently and come to a meeting. They don't. They're just trying to scavenger their day out through it in order to make a difference. And that's where I believe that organizations like this and people like us have to make a difference. We have to be that red square. Now, I'm going to tell you that I've been around kids a lot. I used to teach them. And I'm pretty opinionated. I don't think I'm very judgmental, but I'm very opinionated. So I don't understand why boys wear their pants somewhere in between their knees and their waist. I don't know why they wear their hats backwards. In my family, my father traveled the world in baseball, and he was kind of a hitting guru. So he traveled all around the world in an evangelistic outreach and in baseball. If you turned your hat backwards in his house, that was sacrilege. You did not do that. So I don't get that. I don't understand why young ladies wear some of the clothes that they do. But the reality is, I don't understand what it's like to be 18. You know, we think about how it was when we were 18. We walked to school uphill both ways, 3 feet of snow, even in August. And we went, okay, well, it's tough. It was nothing in comparison to what it is now. The pressures that are on them, and most of us came from homes where there was a mom and a dad, and if they were like my parents, my dad is my hero. He died 8 years ago. My mother has Alzheimer's, but I was blessed to live in the household that I lived in. They took me to church every day. We weren't rich. Guess what? There was food on the table every day. In Kokomo, and I know a lot about Kokomo, they have to have food programs so that kids get to eat on the weekends. In the summer, they pass out sack lunches because kids are going hungry because there's no food in the home. That's really what's going on around us. So they look at us and we kind of give them that look and go, why are your pants sagging down way down where they are? And in reality, they might be looking for someone like you or someone like me to make a difference. Now, the big thing is the project that we work on is not them. That's what Live Exceptionally is about. That's what my book's about. That's what I hope my life is about. The project that we need to be working on is us. Because the project that we work on is how do we live our lives in front of those kids? How do they make a difference? Can they actually say to you, could you help me? Would they feel comfortable walking into your business and say, how do I get involved in, I'm sure there's somebody who sells insurance here, how do I get involved in selling insurance? How do I do that? How do I learn to sell a car? How do I learn to run a marathon? How do I stop being this way and playing nothing but video games and actually get out and exercise? Because we know that's not happening. And it's our leadership that's failing, not those kids. Because they're kids. They don't know how to process stuff. They do what they want to do because we all did what we wanted to do when we were that age. And some of us are still doing just what we want to do, and that's fine if that's what you want to do. But it's our responsibility as people to change the world one person at a time. And I really do think that's the project that we need to work on. Now, Marley also loves to catch frogs. Okay? Not a little bit, loves to catch frogs. How many people have been to Seven Pillars? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to give you a homework assignment. In Peru, there is a place called Seven Pillars. It's on the rivers below the dam. Okay? Seven Pillars is a sacred ground for the Indians, the Native Americans that lived in that area. It's one of the prettiest spots you will ever see. And it is 7 pillars set in stone in a cliff.
On my bike.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what it's called.
It is, and you can wade across and actually sit up where they used to sit. It's just a beautiful place. So I go there a lot. I asked Dee Dee to marry me at 7 Pillars. She was on one side. I sent her on her scavenger hunt. She was on one side of the creek, and there was a note waiting for her. She'd gone all over town, and there was a note saying, look across the river if you're interested in marrying me. And I was standing up on the cliff, and I had flowers and chicken. Okay, all the girls can go, oh. And all the guys can go, yeah, don't tell stories like that. That's ridiculous. Okay, but it's a wonderful place to go. You can wade across the river. You can do it. But Marley didn't care. She didn't care about the burial grounds. She didn't care about the worships that used to go on there. She didn't care about the ceremonies. Frogs. Frogs. Let's go chase frogs. Let's go chase frogs. So we found puddles where frogs lived. Now, anybody caught a frog lately? Okay, frogs are not the easiest things in the world to catch. Okay, they make it look really easy on TV. It's not, because they jump and they swim and they come up with their heads and they tease you and they stick their tongues out at you, and then you dive for them and you fall in the water and you get all muddy. But Marley was relentless. When are we going to look for more frogs? So we moved to another puddle. She found a little puddle that was about this size. It was nothing but mud. You couldn't see the bottom. That became, and I have to do it only as Marley could do, my place. That's my place. And she'd tell us we want to take a break. I wanted to go back to my place and look for frogs. Well, we knew there were no frogs in that place. She could not accomplish her goal in that little puddle. So we finally had to convince her to go down the river into the mud along it. I had seen some there before, and lo and behold, there's a frog. And so me, great white hunter that I am, somebody was talking about, I think one of the ladies that works here, how they have bear heads on their walls, those kind of things. I caught a frog. I just want to let you know. So I am her hero, okay? So Prince Ribbit, also known as Rib, now lives in Marley's house. Now my point is this. Kids are stuck in my place. They're stuck where they are. Now, why? 3 things. Fears, expectations, and failures. I'm going to go in the reverse order. Here's one thing you can read in my book that I know without any question is true. Failing does not make you a failure. And every kid that I've ever known, not everyone, many of them are told, you are a failure. You're never going to be anything. Because they failed. Anybody in this room not failed? Anybody not succeeded as the result of a failure? You tried something different. Edison said, I haven't failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that a light bulb doesn't work. Think about it. That's kind of how we live our lives. Second thing, expectations. They crush us, and they crush kids. Now, if you read my book, you would find out that my father was a tyrant until I became an adult. My father was 82nd Airborne. He had a flat top till the day he died, and his rule was law. That was it. No questions. But he had expectations of me that were too high, and I felt the pressure of that. And the result of that is I began to just become paralyzed by the whole thing of expectations. There's a book called Isaac's Torah, and in that he says that the law or the fruit of lost hope is more bitter than the worst truth. The fruit of lost hope. And when you start putting expectations on kids, they realize I can never, ever get to this point that you want me to. Last thing is fear. And the whole part of that is pathways. We have to inspire kids, all of them around you, in your home and out, to find a new pathway. Somehow, Gustav Mahler said, it's not about climbing the mountain to get to the top. What it is about is that pathway that you've taken one step at a time that somebody else can follow. That's the truth. That's why all of you are here. You're all laying down a pathway that says, I'm going to hope my child does, or the kid down the street sees that I'm different as an adult, and I'm going to follow that pathway. So, for me, the difference is that project is me, not the kid that I think needs to change. That's really what really comes about in regards to what are we doing with our lives and our business and our resources. One of the things that I saw on the banner over here is that it's not about the material things, it's about the spiritual things. Now for me, a lot of that has to do with God, and I'm not here to preach in any way, but something has to be of more value than the almighty dollar. Something has to be that for all of us. And when it is, then we begin to see kids differently. We begin to see the neighbor differently. And then, like your motto, or part of your motto is, we begin to change the world because we're different in how we see other people. So, last thought. This is not about doing something. This is about being something. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are. Because regardless of who you are, regardless of what you do, people will only ever look at who you are. They might admire what you've done. They might envy it. But they will truly look at you and say, I would like to be like that person because of our character, who you are, not because of what you've done or accomplished in regards to something material. thank you for your time, and I appreciate you listening to me. I'd be happy to talk. If anybody would like a book, please let me know, and I'll be happy to sign it for
I
you.
don't think your time's up. You can talk some more.
Talk some more. I don't even know how long I've been talking. How long have I been talking? Just
You got
like
8
I
more
said.
minutes.
What's that?
You got 8 more minutes. If you got questions or anything.
Oh, okay. How about questions? Let's do it that way. Because the book or horses or I know Mr. Anderson said he sold a horse, so I got out of the horse business because my partner did not know that you buy horses to sell them. You don't buy horses to keep them. You buy them to sell them. So we'd buy them, I'd break them, I'd train them, and they'd keep them. It doesn't work that way. When people offer you money for a horse, you take it. To some extent. Right? Because they get real expensive to keep. Really expensive. Yes?
When you wrote this book about bullying, of course I haven't read it yet. Did you do research on it, or is it just from your heart?
It's just
or?
from my heart. Yeah, it's, and I will, when the star of the book is named Kit Kat, and this act, it really is true, and windswept, Mr. Anderson, have you ever heard the term windswept?
No, not that much.
Okay. When she came out of her mom, she was crooked in the back end. Her legs were supposed to look like this, and it would look like this. And so we waited a few days, and they said, when do you want to take her in the arena? And I said, okay, let's try now. And she couldn't stand up. She on the back, I think, of the book. No, the last chapter has a drawing. A lady in Noblesville did the illustrations for me. She couldn't stand. She just wobbled. So I called Warhorse Place as a breeding farm in Kentucky, and they have a really good stallion there, and we had paid a lot of money to have him breed to our mare. And I remember Dana as the office manager, the breeding manager, and I'll never forget, I called her and I was crying. I go, Dana, we got a really big problem. This baby came out, she's crooked. Now, if you're from Kentucky, I apologize because my accent's going to be really bad, but I'll never forget her saying, oh, Chris, there's nothing for you to worry about at all. She's windswept. And I said, Dana, I've been around horses all my life. What's windswept? Well, windswept means that your legs got too long for a mama and they just got all bent up. She says, give her about 30 days and she'll be just fine, and in 6 months you won't ever remember that she did that. Okay, now go tell your partners who are looking at the back legs of this horse going, like it's my fault that she was crooked. Why does she look that way? I don't know. Dana says she's windswept. And then everybody said, what's windswept? And so I got to repeat the accent all the time. She'll be fine in 30 days. I'll never forget Dana. And she was right. She is one big pretty filly now. So she actually came through that. But it's a story. Her mother sends her out and goes and talks to all of the horses that are in the book. Shandor's a Gypsy Banner. He was on the farm just because somebody liked Gypsy Banners. She goes and talks to him. Cowboy is in the book, and he talks to her. She realizes that he has 3 legs. This is Cowboy. If you haven't seen it, Cowboy has the prettiest blue eyes that you've ever seen. Cowboy goes everywhere with me. He didn't come today. My other dog is Cinch. He's the one that's destroying a ball. Cinch is a different, unique human being. Well, he's not human, I'm sorry. That's probably part of the problem, is that I think he thinks that he's human. Cinch is a blue heeler, and blue heelers know how to heal. That's why they're called blue heelers. So if he was in this room and he thought this was my room, he would heal you out of here. He would get along the bottom of your legs. There's a picture of him right behind a mare nipping at her heels. That's how Cinch moves people. And if you're in my space, he's going to move. He is my dog and my dog alone. He would just lay right here. And if you came close to me, he'd growl at you. So not because he's going to hurt you, because he doesn't bite people. He'll just pull on your pant leg until you're really annoyed and wondering why this dog is continuing to heal you. But he tears, Cinch tears. There's a picture of him. I'll have to show you this and then I can. I know I saw it. This is Cinch tearing up the ball. Okay, these are called Jolly Balls. They're supposed to be toys for horses. I've never seen a horse play with one. It's just another way for them to get $25 out of you and say this is good. Cinch loves them. They're supposed to be indestructible. Cinch can go through one in about a week. So he tears and shakes it and eats his body, and the handle breaks loose. And then he rips all the pieces apart and then eats all of the rubber. So you can't even find evidence. He's a very smart criminal. He eats all of the evidence, so there's nothing left. So that's where the people in the book come from. Any other questions? Or yes, sir.
Lawyer, teacher, horse Operator, what are you gonna do next?
You know, I don't really know. You know, I love writing and I love speaking. So it's kind of what Sheila and I were talking about the fact that I really quit breaking horses because I got tired of them breaking me. I've had more surgeries than I can count. Thoroughbreds are a unique breed. I always had quarter horses before in barrel racing. So I'm not sure what I would like to think. I'm working on 3 more books. So right now that's, I guess, what I'm going to continue to do. Anything else? Thank you again.
Unless there's anything else, comments, concerns?